but at the end of the show, coffee's going to be on this shirt.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, everyone. Excuse me. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. This is the inaugural episode of Season 4. And today, I have my friend, a bantamweight, fighting out of SPGHQ. He's the striking coach. He works with the Train Alta program. He's fought previously on Cage Legacy, Clan Wars, among many other things. He's an Irish K1 champ.
Yeah.
And as he just mentioned to me, you have your pro debut coming out December 8th for the IUR championship in Newry, correct?
Exactly, yeah.
Heck yeah. So hopefully by the time this comes out, I can have some link details for tickets and everything
yes,
for yourself. But awesome. So Shane Mullen, everyone.
Shane Mullen.
Welcome, and thank you very much for coming on the show.
No problem at all, bro. Delighted to be here.
Right on. All right, so look, a little bit for those the viewers that are seasoned in this. Every season, I kind of do something I kind of switch it up a little bit, just interview style. Like first season was very much just like chill conversation, and then second season was a bit more structured. Last season, I focused specifically on just kind of asking, really a couple questions. Like I asked a bunch of like quick answer questions.
Okay.
But then after that, I focused on just literally, 2-3 questions that I kind of asked everyone the same, just because I wanted to kind of get an idea of how everyone was feeling. This time's going to be a little bit different. I got a few sections here where we're going to focus on, where you grew up, your background,
brilliant.
Personal growth, development, life outside of MMA, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I hope everyone enjoys this new format. So let's get started here.
Of course.
So tell us, where'd you grow up and what was your childhood like?
So originally, I've moved around a bit. I originally grew up in Ballybrack in Ashland Park, and I stayed there until I was about 7. It's a bit of a mad spot. My mum and dad didn't want me growing up there, so we moved out to Wicklow. I was living out in Kilpetta from probably the age of 7 till 10. Never really settled there, just kind of I was still in school in Dublin the whole time, so I spent my whole time, we'd go to my nanny's after school, I basically just slept in Wicklow, I'd never spent any time there. And then we moved back out of Wicklow for probably 2-3 years. I lived around Monkstown Farm and Sallynoggin. And then we moved back up to Wicklow then after we were living across, my nanny passed away, we were living across from my granddad for the 2 years afterwards. And then he passed away and then we'd moved back up to Wicklow. And since then, since about 12 now, I've been living out there. And obviously now I moved up into the gym now. So I've been moving around a bit. But I started off originally, I would have been 13, I'd say, when I started Muay Thai. We're kind of built into that was I got jumped when I was 12. Yeah, oh, wow. I was walking back from school and about some 19-year-old jumped me.
Really?
Yeah, I got butchered. I did, and I was left all right, but I got booted in the head and all. I was a bit disorientated.
What prompted that?
Some fucking junkie wanted money, bro.
Oh, okay.
And I was just a little kid, and I got into growing up in areas like Ballybrack, Monkstown, Sallynoggin, I'd got into little fights even when I was in Wicklow, I got into fights. So as a young lad, you always think you know how to handle yourself,
Yeah.
And then as soon as I kind of experienced that, getting jumped with someone so much bigger than me, I was all right, I need to properly learn how to defend myself. And my mate up in Wicklow, he was doing Muay Thai at the time, and he invited me down to a session, and I went down. I was doing it for probably 2 months. I was also playing football at the time, and I was a goalkeeper. And my mum had already paid the fees for football for the year, so she was we don't have any more fucking money for sports,
Yeah.
So I was all right, I had to knock on the head for a bit. And then when I was 15, I went back. The gym had changed, and everything just I just went kind of flat at it. I was still doing football a little bit, but really, really focused on Muay Thai then. And I think within 3 weeks, I had my first fight. It was a mad one. I'd woke up to a phone call from one of the lads, and he was like, check the group chat, like the team group chat, and I hadn't even been added to the thing yet. And I went onto my phone, and one of the lads, his brother, he got ran over by his brother basically in a car, and he wasn't able to fight. It was the night before the fight, so he had to pull out. I jumped in, and I went down. I fought. Your man ended up being about I think 8 kilo heavier than me, so they just made it a demo.
Yeah.
And then I had my official first fight the next day.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I got a very quick start into fighting.
It's good to kind of get just thrown into it like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't really get
but obviously you really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So you were.
I always say to people it's a bit different now. The level's so high that you can't just throw people in after 3 weeks of training. Do you know what I mean? Nobody is able to jump in and fight that soon.
20 weeks.
Exactly. Like the Alta program. Yeah. And especially if there's not many people that'll come and they'll join a gym and they'll do it Monday to Friday every day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're doing that, you're gonna get good a lot quicker. Do you know what I mean? That's why the Alta program works. And especially you're gonna compete against somebody who's only been training for 20 weeks as well. Whether when it comes to fights nowadays, you never really know how long someone has been training.
It's true. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So from a matchmaking point of view as a coach, it can be a little bit difficult that way.
Here, look, tell me a bit more about your community, because so you said you lived in Wicklow. You didn't really spend any time there, so you're at your grandmother's house.
Yeah, my nanny, she lived on Monkstown Farm as well, so I stayed around there a lot.
Was there anyone in there that kind of helped you form your idea of looking into?
I'd always been fighting, bro.
Yeah.
I was a little bastard. I was a mouthy little cunt as well. It was just. I had to learn how to fight from just talking too much and people just hitting me, do you know what I mean? So I picked up fairly quickly that as soon as I'd say I was around 4 or something when I first probably started really getting into what would it have been, WWE back then, or maybe it was WWF still. But I got really into that, and then I'll never forget, I think I was 7 or something, and I went to a WWE event over here. And my dad hated it. He fucking hated wrestling, and he was always telling me it was fake, and I never believed him or anything. And we were at it, and I might have been a little bit old, maybe 8 or 9, but I seen something we were at the perfect angle to fucking see how fake it was. It was the Great Khali and John Cena, and the Great Khali went to hit him the big boot, and Cena dropped, and his foot was about 1.5 meters away from him, bro. It was ridiculous. And I looked at my dad, and he just looked down at me and was like, "Told you."
Oh,
and
man.
I was my heart fucking dropped. I didn't even want to be there for the rest of the show. And about 2 weeks later, me cousin Jay showed me Anderson Silva, and I was like, "Is this real?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's real." And I was like, "We need to do this." And that was when I kind of got addicted to MMA and UFC and all. And that was my first introduction to it.
Right on.
So I was probably, I was in an area where fighting was always kind of normal. Do you know what I mean? Everyone kind of fought, you fought with your mates and all. It was never a big deal or anything. But I'd never seen anything like the UFC before my cousin showed me.
Organised.
Exactly. And I didn't even know that shit existed. As far as I knew, the closest thing you could get to a real fight was the WWE when I was a kid. Do you know what I mean? And I'd always had a real big interest in being I want to compete in this. I don't want to just watch it. Do you know what I mean? That was something that was in me since I was a kid. And I'd kind of, by the time I'd looked into MMA gyms and all, I remember I was still living down in Dublin. I think I was in Monkstown when I first found SBG, and it was still probably an hour away from me. Do you know what I mean? So it was there was no way I was gonna get there, and then I told me ma the fees of it, and she was like, "Fuck off." Do you know what I mean? So, and that was years before the prices even went up for gyms. Do you know what I mean? And it was probably I'd say when I first started Muay Thai, I kind of started to drag my way into all right, I'm gonna find a way to get into MMA from this.
Gotcha.
Do you know what I mean? But watching people like Anderson, it was what got me addicted to the whole striking side of it. Do you know what I mean? I was even I think when I was younger, from always watching WWE and stuff, I never really understood how fighting worked. I'd kind of like if I was in a fight, my whole thing was like smash someone and then take them down. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like the usual way like that. Like fights would have went for me. I'd have never been like really like perfecting any area. Do you know what I mean? Like you're only a kid. Like you don't think of it like anything. You just use
trying to do what you saw on
what they tell you not to do.
Yeah,
exactly. Literally.
Okay, so did you go to? What were you like in school? Did you? So you traveled around a bit. Were you in different schools and everything as well?
I was fairly lucky. It was mad. We moved to Wicklow, but we all still, like me and my sister went to school in Dunleary, even primary and secondary school. And then my dad and ma both worked in Dunleary.
Okay.
My dad was a taxi man at the time. He worked around Dublin.
Okay.
So we were all still based in Dublin. So we were still going to the same school. I done like decent in school from like a grades perspective. Like I was never like fucking terrible, but I was constantly like just a little bastard, like getting in fights and just fucking like having trouble with people. Because I grew up in, say the estate I grew up in was fairly like rough, like, and me ma didn't want me going to school there. There was a school like literally, we lived in like what would be a courtyard. So say like when you went into my estate, there was like rows of houses each side, and at the end of my row there's say like two houses across from each other, and then there's a school right beside there. So it would have been like a 14-second walk from my doorstep. Yeah. And my ma drove me down to like Dunleary to go to school. And it was grand. The only problem was all the kids were from a completely different background than I was. Do you know what I mean? Came from a different area. Their fucking dads drove mercs and all. They talk different and they act different and they treat you different. So I got like kind of, what would you call it? Like I got in a bit of trouble over that because people would say something to me and I just react like. Yeah. And I had one or two friends that would be like, I would have been close with back then, but we were killing each other in school. And we got in trouble a few times. Never got like suspended or expelled. Got a few letters sent home and all, and like things threatened.
Stern warnings.
Yeah. But it was always good with like, I could always play the guilt card like and like play it well. Like I was a tiny little kid, man. I was fucking like one of the smallest in my class, like. And so anytime I'd get into a fight, me principal at the time, when I'd say for like 4th, 5th and 6th class, she was like fucking like 4'2", bro. And I remember going to her one day after I got into a really bad fight, and I got brought into it, and she was talking about like fucking expelling me, like, and fucking me out of school, like fucking like ran some bloke's head into a wall or something. It was fucking terrible. And he was my mate as well. We just got into a fight, and she started like losing it at me, and I was like, I started like getting upset and all, and I was like, you started calling me small, and like and I was like, I get bullied about being small, and then she just was automatically like, her whole fucking was like she was bipolar, man. She just switched into this weird like soft person and was like, oh, he was the exact same, and I was like, never getting in trouble with her again. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. The first time sussing like how to kind of manipulate people, like, and then that was probably the last of me getting in trouble in school after that. Because I'd kind of, any time a teacher would send me out or send me down to her, instead of her just like shouting at me and going on a mad one, she'd sit down and like chat to me. And then that worked out in my favour. Yeah,
that's good. I think that, I think teachers or adults in authority positions over kids probably learn a bit from that. It's, shouting doesn't always work.
No.
Some kids need it.
Yeah.
You know, but I think, just being able to sit down and try and have a conversation and treating these, you know, young adults as adults is probably the way to go. And
exactly.
Yeah, and if I think you're much more likely to have a positive outcome on that.
Definitely.
So you used to play football?
Yeah.
Did you have any other hobbies as a kid?
I had this whole thing, I wanted to be a professional mountain biker.
Yeah?
I got really big into mountain biking, man, when I was probably, it was just before I'd started fighting.
It leads right into my next question here. So.
Yeah, it was probably just before I'd started fighting. I'd say about 14 or so, I got into it. And I had an uncle who was really, really good at it, Mark, and he'd basically like been like building tracks and all for years. So I went up to a few of the tracks that he'd done, then got like a hardtail, or I had a hardtail bike at the time, and then got a full suspension bike after like saving up for a bit, and then kind of took off with that. But as soon as fighting kind of came around, I knew I needed to knock that on the head, because it was like say
Very easy to get hurt doing that.
training Monday to Friday, and then you go out, because I was living in Wicklow, you'd go out like literally 10 minutes down the road, and there'd be really good tracks.
So
But
Ballynastow.
Ballynastow, Ticknock, and then there was Delgany Woods beside me has some like decent tracks that'd be like kind of like beginner level, like, do you know what I mean? And you'd be going down there and it'd be good, but one mistake and you're spending the whole week in bits, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not able to train properly, so I had to get knocked on the head.
Do you still do it at all?
No. I cut kind of everything out that like can potentially bring injuries, do you know what I mean?
No, I used to be big in mountain biking as well.
Yeah,
before I had kids. And
yeah.
the only reason really that stopped is because just time. You don't have time anymore.
Yeah, it's a day. It's a full day.
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah. And it can get expensive, even if you have a bike.
Yeah.
You know, like you want a lift ticket, you know, to try and get, or like it was up the Gap in, you know, the Gap, up. It's right next to Johnny Fox's.
Yeah.
That place is awesome because they have lifts.
Yeah.
Or the van.
The van that brings you up, yeah.
And then, you know, you want the van, obviously.
Exactly,
you know, and that's expensive.
Because the cycle up kills you.
Yeah, and then you, like, even if you are there for the whole day, unless you're extremely fit, you're only getting, like, you know, 4 or 5 runs down.
Yeah, you spend 20 minutes cycling up and it's like 90 seconds coming down. Do you know what I mean? It's fucking...
Whereas with the van, you get, like, a dozen times or more.
Literally. It's brilliant.
That's cool. What's something people might not know about you before you began training?
Oh. I'd say a big one is the fact that getting jumped is what brought me into the sport.
Okay.
Because...
Is that something you haven't really talked about before?
I think I've talked about it maybe once or twice, but never really, like, in depth. I think, like, that was like a big thing for me, and it was also what made me not, because when I first came over to MMA, there was like from Muay Thai and K1, there was a big thing of like, fuck all this grappling stuff, like, and people shooting on me and trying to take me down. I'd wanted to go back kind of nearly very soon to striking, and I was like, this is where I feel like I excel. But then the same thing that made me want to keep doing Muay Thai after getting jumped and like knowing that I need to learn how to defend myself was, this is an aspect, like the grappling side is an aspect that I don't know yet. So what happens if I have great striking and some bleeding Moldovan bloke happens to be there? Do you know what I mean?
You to the ground,
he can take me down. So it was always a lot of my like drive for wanting to learn how to defend myself and be able to be like very controlled everywhere came from that scenario of getting jumped, do you know what I mean? And that kind of was what built all of this for me and built like the drive to actually go after everything, do you know what I mean? I think that's probably the biggest thing that a lot of people still, like, I've probably only talked about it 2 or 3 times, but nobody really knows about it.
Well, yeah, no, it's a tough situation. It's like, you know, your coach.
Yeah.
John Kavanagh, that's what prompted him to start as well. He was assaulted, I think it was in front of friends or something like that.
Yeah, or a girlfriend or something.
Yeah, and you know, that's what prompted him to start as well. So it's everyone should know how to defend themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and then I think if you have a bit of training, it kind of gives you a bit more of a confidence to not even approach other people like that.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
If you have this confidence about you, then I think you're somewhat less likely to...
You're not a target.
Well, no, it's not that. It's just like you're less likely yourself to be, you know, kind of that type of individual who would want to target someone else.
Yeah.
You know,
Like,
you have an outlet to, you know, get all that stuff out of you, and then 2, like you just know. You know, it's just something that...
and you know how bad things can go quickly. Like, everybody who's been in the gym has seen someone get hit bad. Like, do you know what I mean?
The first time I saw someone get knocked out cold.
Yeah.
That was scary. I thought they were dead.
Yeah.
Legit thought they were dead.
Yeah.
And I remember had like mini panic attack. Just like, oh my God, that guy's dead. And then he kind of started moving again. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
It was so scary.
Yeah, I had that shock before I fought in a tournament. It was the Dublin Open. Rob Carey ran it, and it was like 3 fights in one day. And the second fight, I'd thrown a body kick, and I broke, I think, like 2 or 3 of a man's ribs. And I came down. It was in like I think it was in the basketball arena, and there's like a second level of viewing. and say like my dad and my sister were up there, and I went up to them afterwards, and I came back down, and one of the girls I trained with Moya at the time, she ran up to me, and she was like, that bloke you just fought over there on oxygen and all, like, and he was like taped up and all, and like on like a stretcher and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd like seen that, and I was like, man, I done that to him. Do you know what I mean? And I had another fight in 10 minutes, like, but I was sitting there and I was like asking the doctors, and I was like, is he gonna be alright and all? And they were like, yeah, he'd be grand, he just can't really breathe at the minute. And I was like,
Jesus.
yeah, it was kind of like an eye-opening moment for me about like how dangerous I can be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That you never really, you see it in the gym, you see people knock people out or you drop somebody or whatever, but like to actually physically
do it,
like put someone like sitting there on oxygen, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Real eye opener.
Yeah, no, definitely. It really shows like, to be fair, you don't even need to be that skilled to do that.
Yeah.
Like anyone can do that.
Literally.
Obviously with training, it's a lot easier to do.
Yeah.
But and the training part is what really kind of make you understand the danger of it.
Yeah, exactly.
How did you find your gym? At SPG, how did you live there now?
Yeah.
So like, how did that happen?
So basically, I'd originally been doing Muay Thai, and my coach, I'd kind of got to a stage, I think I'd said to him, I was like, I'm not sure, I'd had a few fights, and I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to come as consistently, just because like I think I just turned 16.
Who was your coach?
Darren McFall.
Okay.
Tree kicker, he was pure Muay Thai in K1, and I hadn't really like got to like getting a job or anything yet. I was like applying for jobs and all, but I hadn't got anything. And obviously I lived in bleeding Wicklow, like, so there's not a lot around, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we'd went and ended up telling him that I was probably gonna have to maybe take like a month or two off until I got a job. And he was like, he'd got one of the boys a job, one of the other fighters, in the kitchen. He was a head chef as well, and he got one of the lads a job as a kitchen porter, and then he got me the job to keep me in the gym, and just kind of left your man off. And then that was like my first stage into like properly being full time.
Okay. And
I knew, I was like, all right, well now I have my own money coming in, now I can buy all my own training gear, buy all of that. That was when I properly started dedicating to the gym. Then
how old were you at this?
16.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I'd known from my first fight, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. I knew 100%, and because I was addicted to it, and I'd ended up through mad how everything, like the little things all line up. My friend Andy, he worked in the Parkview Hotel, which was the hotel that I was a kitchen porter in, and my gym in Greystones at the time eventually closed down.
Okay.
And Andy was training out in SPG in Tala. So he asked me did I want to go out with him. I was meant to go down. I was training in King Cowley's gym in Monkstown Warriors. Yeah. I was training there for only like a few weeks. I had a fight coming up. It was meant to be my last amateur Muay Thai fight, and then I was going to go pro. And then that whole show that I was meant to fight on got like pulled. The whole show didn't go ahead. So Andy asked me if I wanted to come out to try MMA. Okay. And on the first day there, I met Dave Roach. And then that was when I was like, Muay Thai is gone. I need to focus on this. And from there, then what was it? It was probably there maybe a year and a half, 2 years. Could have been longer.
At SPG in Tala.
Yeah, SPG Tala. 2-3 years maybe. And it goes so fucking quick when you're trying to look back on it.
Oh, yeah.
And then Dave got brought over to HQ because the pro team had got so big. John had asked him to come over, and he brought myself and like one or two other fighters that were there as well, that were on like the pro team in Tala. He brought us over, and then that was where we got introduced to John, and it's all fucking that was probably 6 years ago now.
Okay, so
or maybe 5 years ago, yeah. And then everything kind of took off from there with MMA.
Was there in your pursuit of this, has there been like a specific person who's kind of inspired you or motivated you specifically?
I'd always say like the person who got me into fighting was Anderson Silva. Okay. Just watching like how he'd like put people in the matrix. Like it was like it was like the Forrest Griffin fight and all. Like I'd I have a book wrote on Anderson Silva at this stage, like
Yeah.
literally a book wrote on him. Like it's amazing how he set everything up and all things I didn't notice at the time, obviously. But the more like I've got educated in the sport and like my fight IQ or whatever you'd call it has improved, that I've really started to understand the level that he was at, and that was always something that really kind of inspired me. Obviously, I don't think there's a fucking fighter on the planet that can't say Conor didn't inspire them, because he opened the doors for this can't just be you fighting and getting sponsorships. Like, you can change your whole life and your family's life and the future of your family's life through this sport. Like, and probably as well, I'd say Dave Roach. Dave had a huge impact on me from an early stage, and it really it directed me and he guided me to get to where I am now. Do you know what I mean? Even just from a coaching aspect of being like, understanding I never have to be out of the gym. Do you know what I mean? If I get injured, if I'm sick, whatever it is, I'm still on the mat. I'm still seeing, still learning, like even padding people. I always say, like, it trains your eyes. You still, like, I might not spar for 2 months and I'm still padding people, so you're still managing distance. Do you know what I mean?
How a little off topic, but how is he as a coach? Because like I see him working with people and he looks so very invested in what he's doing at that time, which obviously you want, but just like it seemed like I'm trying to say, I guess for me as more of a layman, like I feel like if he was coaching me on anything, I would just feel so intimidated. So like, how like for you, like do you feel that, or is it?
No, like he'd break me up sometimes during techniques, but like I think he picks me for that. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
But, it's, I don't know what it is. It's like we have like a mutual understanding with everything. Do you know what I mean? I've always found from like probably my first day meeting Dave that I was like, this bloke can take me wherever I want.
Right on. How has your kind of your self-image changed since you started training and fighting?
It's ridiculous, man. Like, I honestly believe that, one, I don't think fights would happen as much in like schools and primary schools, bullying and everything, if martial arts was implemented from day one of school. But the way I can carry myself now, how I walk around, like whatever you'd call it, like the presence you bring to a room, everything like that completely changes just from the basic idea of knowing I can defend myself against majority of people. Do you know what I mean?
It's funny that you say like you can defend yourself. It's not I can fuck you up.
Yeah.
You know, and like I think that's a big distinction between someone who's trained and untrained.
Exactly,
You know, don't get me wrong, I'm sure you probably think that sometimes.
Depending on the person. Like,
But like probably, you know, maybe after you're approached or something like that. But you know, I say it's like a key difference. You know, if you're trained, you have the bit more of that kind of wherewithal of what's you know, implication of what can happen and, you know, consequences and, you know, that,
I've
that
always
type of
had
thing.
this thing as well with like, what would you call it? Like, because I've known from a very early stage that I wanted to do this as a career.
Yeah.
I knew how negative a fight outside could be for me. And my coach, Darren McFall, from day one, and he was like, he wouldn't have been like in terms of like a martial artist, like in like, he only really focused on striking. He would have never really got like the, like, you know, the way they say jiu-jitsu was like the gentle art, and like I found like jiu-jitsu definitely like calmed me down a lot. But I never really got that whole thing of like always wanting to diffuse situations until he said to me, he was like, you're not allowed back in the gym if I hear about you fighting outside. He was like, you have too much potential.
That's good.
And that stayed with me from the age of like 15.
That's
and
good.
It's always been a thing we can proudly say that since I started training, I haven't been in one fight outside.
That's good.
Do you know what I mean? And there was one time when I got into a fight in school, and that was after I'd originally started training, but I'd only trained for like a month or two. But ever since I fought in like a ring or a cage, I haven't got into anything outside. Because I feel like I don't feel threatened enough. Like, it's like you'd have to really hit me for me to do something, or at least like swing at me. And Dave always gave me this thing. It was like, if someone approaches you, you take one step back, and then if they step forward, you just step one leg back into your stance, and now you're at kicking range. And that's happened once. It's never had to go any further.
What's up, like Jocko Willick? He always says, like, what is it? He says, like, if he's ever in a situation, just run. And he says that's what he's gonna do. Because like he knows what he's capable of doing. Clearly, if someone's coming at him, they have no idea who he is. So like if Jocko says he's gonna run,
exactly.
And
like,
why wouldn't
there
you?
There is that thing, like, as like what we do, like from a training perspective, is like obviously like there's coaches, and like in a fight there's a ref and all. But when that's not there, like, and that instinct takes over, you don't know what you'll do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't know when I'll stop if there's no ref. Like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I always say that from like a fighting perspective. The ref's job is to stop me killing you or you killing me. Do you know what I mean? Because it's instinctual. Do you know what I mean? This person's in here trying to hurt you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's no, like, I always say people give out about like even like the new rules and all getting changed, where like you can say like knee an opponent when they have their hands on the ground in the head, or you can kick them in the head from that position. And I was like, I think it should be as close to real fighting as possible. I'd be happy with pride rules, bro. Do you know what I mean? Like, honestly, like, it's, I'm like that. I'd like, if you can do it in a street fight,
WWE rules with chairs. And stuff.
If you can do it in a street fight, I think like MMA can kind of, it should be allowed. Like, do you know what I mean? Majority of things, maybe bar headbutts. Like, do you know what I mean? Possibly, but I'm open to everything. I always think though that like fighting now, you're starting to see it kind of go back towards the direction of like pure fighting. But I think to get it through, to get it onto mainstream, they had to kind of like pull it back a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Now you have like you have like bare knuckle boxing now.
Yeah,
that shit's bloody as hell.
That used to just be a thing that was considered by travellers. Do you know what I mean? Nobody ever fucking looked at bare knuckle as that's going to be a sport. Like,
I remember I used to be a proponent of like MMA going gloveless or smaller pads. Yeah, because you have to be a bit more delicate with your strikes and everything. Yeah. But after watching some bare knuckle, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, now to me, like, it's literally just the visual of bleeding
less power,
everywhere.
More cuts.
Yeah, exactly. That is what it is. But oh my, like, wow, like, you cannot put that on television.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that there hasn't been a lot of controversy over that.
Have you ever seen Letway?
Who?
Letway.
Maybe.
It's Burmese Thai boxing. So it's basically like they call it the art of 9 limbs. So it's punches, kicks, knees, elbows, and headbutts. Okay. And they fight in like, the traditional Thai wraps with rope wraps. Wow. Yeah, so it's like twine.
Those hemp ropes.
Yeah. And it's like wrapped around the knuckles, so there's no gloves whatsoever. And then
I got a headache thinking about it.
If you get knocked out, they have 2 minutes to wake you up, and you're allowed to go back in and fight.
Oh my God.
It's nuts, it is, yeah.
That's insane.
Crazy, yeah.
All right, on that note, is there anything you've learned about like combat sports or MMA or boxing, anything in general that maybe you didn't expect to learn?
Didn't expect to learn. I didn't expect martial arts to kind of, like, I went into fighting for the fighting aspect of it. I didn't really expect the, like, martial arts lifestyle to become part of my life. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, the whole, like,
it's the same.
Obviously, the whole, like, of, like, coaching, and even, like, say, like, yesterday, like, me and Rob Carey out in Bray, every Tuesday we're doing this, like, free women's self-defense class. Oh yeah? And yeah, so that's been going on like the last 3 weeks. We're doing it in like 6 week blocks. And like things like that, like even like helping fighters, helping people. I never seen that side coming from the sport. Okay. And being able to, like, I look at it as giving back, like. Do you know what I mean? Even like we're doing the whole thing, like we're doing it completely free. And I said it to him, I was like, I do this every week for free, man. It's like there's a level of reward that you get from giving, especially when it's a skill that could literally save your life.
Absolutely. Talk more about that, because I'm very interested in that. Like, like I said, I work with Jackie there. So there's another podcast I work on called Let Her Talk, hosted by our friend Jackie Almeida. And it's specifically like empowering women.
Yeah.
Which I'm a proponent of. I have 2 little girls and I want them to be, badass like me. Obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, like
exactly.
I want them to, to kind of have the confidence in the world to, take on everyday challenges and whatever. So but please, like, tell us more about what you do for that self-defense. I'm very interested.
Is that my phone going? I'll put that on silent. So, basically, what we're doing at the minute is it's 2 day, once a week on a Thursday at 6 p.m. or on a Tuesday, sorry, at 6 p.m. It's myself and Rob Carey coaching, and we done the first 2 weeks are Muay Thai based. The second 2 weeks that we're in now will be boxing based, and then the last 2 weeks will be kind of MMA based.
Okay.
And Rob would have been one of the coaches that I would have originally worked with. He would have been alongside Darren McFall, and it's amazing to just see, like, I think we've been hitting 18 to 20 consistently for the first 3 weeks. And now, obviously, when you do stuff for free, you always get people that book in. So that we had, like, I think 30 booked in and 34 on the waiting list. And then we opened it up to them all, and there's still probably only about 20 showing up. It's whenever you do stuff for free, you'll always get about 50% don't show up. But I think
you should do like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You should do like to try and mitigate that. Just charge like $5 and then either give it back to them when they show up, or have like food or drinks or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Just to help mitigate, because you'll get people who want to go and they can't. But just an idea.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah,
you can talk later. I'm happy to help out with that. I can help with that booking stuff, and I'll do it for free.
Oh, definitely. Thank you.
Just an idea, sorry, please. Did not mean to interrupt you.
No, you're all good. So basically our whole idea of it is, now you're not going to learn in 6 weeks how to defend yourself. Do you know what I mean? But you might pick up a few key details that in a self-defense situation will be able to get you out of there. Do you know what I mean? Like, and again, I always say, when you're talking about, especially when you're talking about women's self-defense, it's not fighting. There's no rules, like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you can latch onto someone's face with your teeth, and that's going to be a way to identify somebody. There's a hole in that bloke's cheek.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or he has a bit of his ear missing. Do you know what I mean? Whatever it is, that I always say, go for whatever you can. But if we can teach fundamental basics where you know how to block a shot if somebody just starts swinging at you, or whatever it is, if you get into a position, you know how to sweep somebody, you know how to defend a takedown if somebody body locks you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these things, especially for women, are you're not dealing with someone of possibly equal strength.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Big discrepancy.
It would be a huge discrepancy. There's a bone density difference and all, like, do you know what I mean? So it is a thing of, like, it's a way for women as well to kind of come and try out a class where it's purely for them. Do you know what I mean? And then if this is something you're really interested in, brilliant, you should join the gym.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or at least get you in the door, and you might be able to talk to one of the girls there, and you just join the gym together so you have a training partner. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of, like, even still, there's a big stigma in gyms, like martial arts gyms, that you go in and kill each other. Yeah. And that's not at all what it is.
I was going to say, at very least, maybe it'll get maybe more women interested in, actually looking at their local gym.
Yeah.
Because they might have that stigma, or, they might view it as this big scary place, which, to be fair, that's how I felt, or that's how I viewed it before I started. So I can only imagine it's got to be significantly worse for some women.
Exactly.
But no, I think it's awesome you do that, and I definitely want to try and help you promote that as much as I can, because I think it's awesome. All right, so we just covered one of the things, but how else do you spend your time away from the gym?
I try, like, I'm very lucky in a way. Like, my friends outside of this, most of them don't do anything to do with fighting.
Really?
Yeah, like, none of, like, just, like, would work, like, normal jobs, or, like, even some of them would have, like, obviously, like, be involved in, like, businesses and doing their own things, but completely detached from fighting.
Okay.
So, like, I'd go out to, like, a few of the lads, and I'd be able to, like, not even have anyone ask about a fight. Do you know what I mean?
gotta be nice sometimes to-
Yeah, definitely. It's
to not
nice
even have to think about
to
it.
completely disconnect. It's nice. Now, obviously, I feel like then there's the other side of it when I probably have a fight coming up. I completely like isolate myself.
Yeah.
I find like that's very important. But outside of like fight camps, I'll be very like I make sure that I get away from the gym a bit because I've had to be told a good few times, but I did eventually learn it that burnout is real.
Oh yeah.
And mental burnout can be worse than physical burnout. When especially for someone like me, where like I'd be in the gym for like multiple hours at a time, like even if I'm not training. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can burn out very easily that way.
Very good. Do you give me one non-MMA related goal you have for yourself?
Non-MMA. I guess it's technically non-MMA. Well, I want by probably the time I'm 30 to have something completely like a full system built to be helping people from like school, ideally from primary school and up, like I was talking about earlier, where kids are training. People are learning this early on. It's not like person like as in like fighting goal, but still probably related to MMA. But it's the whole idea that to completely mainstream the sport and not make it this thing that is like just about fighters. Like even you seen John Kavanagh talking about it with the Alta program. He was like, I don't want to just have it as you have to fight at the end of it. This is to get you in the gym. This is to get you training, learn martial arts. And I kind of look at it as doing that with the younger generation.
Okay.
And being able to impact that and make sure that there's nobody like, I'd love for people to join a gym and not have to go through what I had to go through to join the gym.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because when you're forced to know you can't defend yourself, maybe now not everybody will be as lucky as me and not everybody would have had, like my mate Stay at the time, he dragged me to a fucking Muay Thai class the first time and I fell in love with it. But if he hadn't have been there to drag me, I'd probably just have went inside myself and been like, I'll have to fucking figure this out myself. And do you know what I mean? And you never really get anywhere that way. So I think getting it instilled in school some way at an early age will completely change the future. Do you know what I mean? For kids, for
Right on.
their whole thing, their whole experience in school, because they'll learn about being able to carry themselves correctly, that side of fighting or that side of martial arts, and being able to be really, really confident in yourself just comes as a byproduct of learning self-defense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's good. And then I always think it's good for, what am I trying to say? Like maybe kids who maybe they don't have the most positive role models at home.
Exactly.
You know, they can come to, it sounds weird, a class on fighting, you know, and, you know, they can have a positive role model, teach them, you know, right from wrong kind of a thing. And I'm a big proponent for things for women and kids, especially underprivileged kids and stuff like that. So I think it's awesome. I really hope you you get to start something like that. And if I can ever be of any help, please let me know.
Yes, of course, man. Thank you.
What's one thing someone would be surprised to learn about you?
Oh, actually, this is really interesting. Have you ever heard of Reiki?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a practitioner in Reiki.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. So I haven't done the masters yet, but I've done the Reiki 1 and Reiki 2.
Okay.
And that was something that I got into during, it was probably about maybe like 6 or 9 months before the lockdown.
Okay.
And I'd done it every week with a girl. She actually operates 2 or 3 days a week out of SBG Tala upstairs. Carol, Absolute Healing, and she's amazing. And it opened my mind to a lot of stuff that I didn't know existed.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Or things that I didn't believe in at the time.
Yeah.
And it really kind of changed my perspective on a lot of things in life. And
That's cool.
That was something that every time I mention it to people, they're kind of like mind blown. Even me dad, he always talks about it. He's like, it's literally like yin and yang. Like it's like complete opposites. There's like this idea that is like, realistically, as an MMA fighter, as much as I could talk about self-defense and all, but as an MMA fighter, your job is to hurt people. Do you know what I mean? And then practicing Reiki, it's all about healing people. It's literally two polar opposites, like, do you know what I mean? So I find that really, really like fucking interesting as well.
Be a bit of a good balance, I guess.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Can you speak on how combat sports has contributed to your mental health?
Oh my God, man. Like, even if you go back to the mindset you're in as a 13-year-old who just got battered by some 19-year-old in a lane, you feel completely powerless, like. And then being able to walk down the road or walk, I even remember, because when I got jumped, I was walking through a lane on the way to my cousin's house. His dad coached my football team. And it was probably only about a year or 2 years ago, I was walking down that lane again. And I was like, I'd love to see that bloke. Do you know what I mean? But I was also, I was like...
Did you ever run into that guy again? Or
no. The contrast in how I was before martial arts and who I am after, it's even true. Obviously, we all go through shit in life. Like, it's not like the last 12 years, ever since I got jumped, have been perfect in life. Like, there's been a load of shit that's happened in my life, and I've been able to stay calm and collected, and I've had an outlet when I'm angry. I've had people to go to from the gym that have experience way beyond my years. People like Dave that I can go and talk to about absolutely anything. The amount of people that I've met through the gym that have just, like, you get a different connection with a lot of people in there. And now, especially, that mental health has become a real big thing that people are talking about now, and people are a lot more open to talk about it. It's like you've surrounded yourself with a lot of people who they already know. Everybody gets humbled every day in the gym.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, the best fighter in the world can come in and have a bad day and get mauled by somebody who they should not lose a sequence to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that alone will kind of get you through bad days. You understand that it comes in waves. Like, do you know what I mean? The same way I can walk into the gym and think I'm going to piece up everybody and just get mauled. The same way I can go into a normal day in life and have a terrible day, but you just have to go with it. Do you know what I mean? You learn that kind of go with the flow mentality, like.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important. That's definitely helped me a lot.
Do you have any kind of like mental exercises that you go through?
I meditate a lot. And
really?
I found the Reiki was an absolute game changer.
Okay.
That was something that if anybody doesn't know what it is, don't even look it up. Just find someone who does it near you and book into it, because if you look it up, you'll talk yourself out of it because you'll say it's not real. Do you know what I mean? That's what I've done for ages. Are you still kind of
practicing, or
yeah, still practice. And then
can people book yourself?
I don't do it like if anybody got onto me, I don't charge for it at the minute because I haven't done the masters on it yet. So I done like a bit with my dad. He really enjoyed it. I've done like a few nights in a row with him, and it's kind of hard to explain, but it just kind of gives you that like clear-headedness. I always say to people, like, I found it like completely takes away anxiety.
Okay.
And that's what I think a lot of people are probably like, probably I'm in a bit of trouble for saying this, but like misdiagnosed with. That it's like anxiety is just a byproduct of having knowledge. Like,
okay.
You're like, if I know that, like, say anxiety before a fight, because I know the potential of something bad happening is huge. Do you know what I mean? And I know that this person is training to hurt me as much as I'm training to hurt him.
Yeah, no, anxiety kind of gets a bit of a bad rap because, like, it is healthy to have anxiety.
Yeah, like if you didn't have to think before you said, sorry for cutting across you, but if you didn't have to think and like think about potential consequences before you done something or said something, you'd be chaotic as fuck. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, nobody would have any filter. Nobody would. Everyone would be cancelled. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that go wrong from not having that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then when I think you focus on it too much and you then live inside your head, and especially like after the lockdowns, a lot of people, especially depending on what your environment at home is like, a lot of people didn't have the ability to be able to go out and still socialise and get stuff off their chest. If you're not growing up in a home where it's okay to talk, then the lockdowns probably made people very, very like stuck in their own head.
Oh yeah, for sure. Or if you didn't really have a wide social circle or something like that. Yeah, for sure. Long-term goals with MMA.
Long-term goals with MMA.
So you're going pro debut.
Pro debut.
The 8th of December.
8th of December. I'd ideally like to fight maybe January, February again. Then I think 2 fights, and I'd be looking at PFL or Bellator. Ideally, run through PFL, 100 grand tournament first of all. Then you go into the $1 million tournament. Then probably like Bellator. I think my whole goal has always been I want to cement that I'm the best on the planet at what I do.
Okay.
And I don't think going about it as like the normal trajectory of like going like straight to the UFC or like the whole like what is it? Most people go like 5-6-0, try go on the Contender Series or go like maybe like the Cage Warriors route or any of them. Obviously, it's all still well and good, but I think trying to nearly obtain a world title on all the major organizations in MMA. Do you know what I mean? That would be.
Do you see yourself in the UFC?
Yeah, eventually, yeah.
Right on.
I just think doing it right, the whole fucking money side of the UFC is a little bit weird, like, so I think you can make really good money outside of it, and then if you progress to there, brilliant, and then you can go and kind of cement your legacy there and say, I've done the UFC now, I've won the world title, I've done all of that. But I definitely think a lot of people kind of get a little bit sidetracked by just chasing that goal of getting to the UFC, and then they end up in their 30s and fucking sitting there being like, man, I need a gaff. Do you know what I mean? And that's the last thing I want. I kind of focus more on the whole thing of like, you need to build a brand. Do you know what I mean? And that's like, if you look at like what Conor done, everything Conor touches turns to gold because of the brand he built. Now, obviously, the UFC were alongside him for that and a big part of it, but the UFC wasn't $1 billion company before he came along.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? So it's a thing of you have to just focus on branding. Branding is everything, like.
Okay.
And I think that allows you to then kind of not do as you please, but it opens a lot more doors for you.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So I want to do that and make sure that I lay a pat down for the future for fighters. That there's these routes you can go. Do you know what I mean? Like you see, like even John Kavanagh's obviously doing it as well with like P. You see how like often PFL and Bellator shows are over here. We haven't had the UFC over here in fucking years. Do you know what I mean? So to have shows that are local, that are big, that people are getting paid on, do you know what I mean? That athletes can actually look at and be like, all right, I can get here, like, and I might be able to get here if I go out and finish my first 2 fights with highlight reel knockouts. It's brilliant. Yeah. Then we're probably signed straight away, and then we'll make probably better money than fucking someone in the top 10 of the UFC.
Do you think there's more money in it now these days than say, 5-10 years ago?
Yeah, there's probably more money getting put in it every day. Like,
okay.
It's probably, I think bare knuckle is obviously growing huge, but MMA is still the fastest growing sport on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
And I think especially in this country as well.
Yeah. And plus, it's one of them things that you're seeing like the Saudis are like buying into things now and like all of that. So like all the major places that have money are pumping money into MMA now, which is brilliant because then there's money coming from all angles.
Yeah.
I mean, even seeing Makiev getting paid like fucking really good money in Brave, like, and Brave is never known for amazing money, like.
No.
You know what I mean? So it's good. There's loads of opportunity now.
All right, right on. All right, run up to the end here. So I just got a few kind of quick fire questions for you. Just give me the first thing off the top of your head there. Brilliant. All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. What is the worst advice you've ever received? At least that you can remember.
I won't say who said it to me, but
I'll bleep it out.
I was talking about either, I think it was like fighters or maybe wrestlers. It was years ago. It was when I was a kid, but somebody said to me, "The 1% make it."
Say it again. The 1% make it.
Only the 1% make it. Go to school and get a job. That was the worst bit of advice I've ever got in my life. Because it's immediately telling you to just not chase you. Do you know what I mean?
Follow your dreams, right?
Yeah.
Right on. Dinner with anyone, dead or alive? Silva?
Oh, Silva. Yeah, we'll go with that one, yeah.
All right, last one here. Who was the last person you called to talk to?
Oh. The last person I called. My mate, the godfather to his 2 kids, Adam McFaul.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the last person I would have called to talk
Do you
to.
talk to him often?
Yeah, all the time, bro.
Right on. All right, look, man. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, man.
Thank you very much. Had a wonderful conversation with you.
Me too.
Hope to have you back sometime, and look forward to your pro debut. Like I said, I should be up there.